Hey there, fellow history enthusiasts. Welcome back to another deep dive,
Always a pleasure to be back.
where we take your questions
Mm.
and dive deep into a specific historical topic.
Yeah.
Now, today,
Mm.
we've got a request from a new UPSC aspirant
Okay.
who is struggling with the
Mm-hmm.
chapter on Congress rule in India,
Mm-hmm.
specifically the 1937 elections and the provincial governments that followed.
Right. Yeah, it's a big one.
So, before we get into that, though,
Yeah.
remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any future deep dives.
Absolutely. And, even if you're not preparing for the UPSC exams,
Right.
this period is fascinating for anyone interested in Indian history.
Absolutely.
It was a real turning point.
It really was.
A lot of drama,
So much drama.
ideological clashes,
Yeah.
pivotal decisions.
Really shaped the course of India's journey towards independence.
Exactly.
So let's set the scene. It's the 1930s, India is under British rule,
Mm-hmm.
and the fight for independence is simmering.
Mm-hmm.
The civil disobedience movement has just ended,
Right.
and the Indian National Congress, it's kind of at a crossroads.
Yeah, big time.
What's the next move?
Well, the withdrawal of the civil disobedience movement really did create this fascinating debate within the Congress.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the next tactical step.
Right.
It was about fundamentally different approaches to achieving independence.
Okay, so we've got sources that indicate
Yeah.
three major viewpoints emerging within the Congress
Mm-hmm.
at this point.
Right?
Could you kind of shed some light on these clashing perspectives?
Of course. So you had one group deeply rooted in Gandhian principles,
Okay.
advocating for what they called constructive work.
Right, classic Gandhi,
It's-
self-reliance, social change.
Yeah, these were individuals who believed in focusing on grassroots nation building,
Mm.
promoting Swadeshi things like khadi production and Harijan upliftment,
Right.
uplifting society from the ground up.
Okay, but I'm sensing that there were some alternative strategies brewing here as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that brings us to the second perspective, the constitutionalists.
Okay.
They believed in engaging with the existing political system,
Even though they opposed it.
even though they opposed it fundamentally,
Right.
like the one established by the 1935 Government of India Act.
Right.
They felt that participating in the upcoming provincial election
Under this act.
under this act could offer a platform to advocate for change from within.
Okay, so almost like a Trojan horse strategy.
Exactly, got it.
Working within the system to dismantle it from the inside.
It was a bold move.
It sounds risky, but also kind of intriguing.
Definitely generated a lot of debate within the Congress.
But there was another perspective to consider, right?
Oh, absolutely.
One that saw the elections as a distraction
Yes.
from the ultimate goal of complete independence.
Right.
We've got figures like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose,
Mm-hmm.
who were known for their more aggressive stance
Yes.
against British rule.
Right.
Did they support this electoral strategy?
Not really. They advocated for a continuation of the push for complete independence.
Okay.
They saw participating in these elections as a compromise.
Right.
They argued that it would legitimize British authority and divert energy away from the more direct struggle for freedom.
It's like a three-way tug of war within the Congress.
It really was.
So what was Gandhi's position in all of this?
Gandhi.
You know, he's often seen as the guiding force of the Congress.
Well, his stance is actually quite fascinating.
Okay.
While he personally expressed skepticism about electoral politics, he ultimately chose not to impose his views.
Yeah.
He believed in allowing each faction to pursue their chosen path,
So almost like a
a period of experimentation
Yeah.
to see what yielded the best results.
classic Gandhi
Exactly.
action learning through experience.
Exactly.
So with all these diverse viewpoints, which path did the Congress ultimately choose?
Despite strong internal opposition, they decided to contest the 1937 elections.
Wow.
It was a significant shift in their approach.
But wait a minute, weren't they completely opposed to the 1935 Government of India Act?
Yes.
Like they saw it as a way for the British to just further consolidate their control over India?
Absolutely.
It seems paradoxical to participate in a system
Yeah.
that you're actively trying to dismantle.
You've hit on a key point.
Okay.
The Congress, despite participating in the elections, remained fundamentally opposed to the 1935 Act.
Okay.
In fact, their election manifesto explicitly stated their primary aim was to combat this very act.
So they're essentially trying to use the system against itself.
Yeah.
What were their key objectives?
Well, it's important to note that the 1935 Act,
Hmm.
despite being criticized by the Congress, actually expanded the electorate,
Oh, well,
giving more Indians the right to vote.
so more people had a voice.
Exactly. And the Congress aimed to capitalize on this.
Right.
They appealed to the aspirations of the common man.
Okay.
They promised things like safeguarding civil liberties,
Mm.
releasing political prisoners,
Okay.
improving the lives of peasants and workers through initiatives like tenancy reforms and debt relief,
Wow.
addressing social evils like untouchability and promoting Swadeshi and village industries.
So it's a mix of
Yeah,
immediate relief and long-term revolutionary goals.
absolutely.
Sounds like a carefully crafted strategy.
Mm.
Did it work?
Well, the results were astonishing.
Okay.
The Congress swept the polls in many provinces.
Wow.
It was a clear indication that their message had resonated,
Okay.
and they had emerged as the dominant political force in India.
A landslide victory.
Yeah.
It seems like this decision to engage with the system, despite all the opposition and contradictions, really paid off.
It did.
This must have been a turning point in the fight for independence.
Yeah,
A moment of immense hope
Yeah.
and possibility for the Congress and for the Indian people.
It was a huge moment.
Yeah.
Huge moment. But this victory came with a whole new set of challenges and dilemmas
Oh, I bet.
for the Congress.
They had won the elections,
Right.
but now faced a crucial decision.
Okay.
Should they actually form governments and work within the system they opposed?
It's like a victory, but a victory laden with complexity.
A real fork in the road.
Yeah.
On the one hand, they had this opportunity to shape policies and impact people's lives
Right.
directly. But on the other hand,
Yeah.
taking up positions of power within the British Raj could be seen as legitimizing the system they were fighting against.
So damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
What were the arguments on each side of this debate?
You can imagine the discussions that must have taken place.
Yeah.
Those who opposed accepting office figures like Nehru and Bose,
Right?
they argued vehemently that it would be a grave mistake.
Okay.
They saw it as a trap set by the British,
Okay.
a way to co-opt the nationalist movement and dilute their demands for complete independence.
So almost like trying to dismantle a house from the inside
Yeah.
while simultaneously reinforcing its foundations.
Seems inherently contradictory.
It does.
What about those who advocated for accepting office?
Well, they argued it was a strategic necessity.
Okay, how so?
They believed that governing the provinces would provide invaluable administrative experience,
Oh, okay.
something they would desperately need when India eventually achieved independence.
Right, like a training ground for self-rule.
Exactly.
Did they have any other justification?
Of course.
Yeah.
They also argued that by forming governments, they could implement policies that would directly benefit the Indian people.
Okay, so fulfilling those promises.
Yes, fulfilling
Oh.
those promises made during the election campaign,
Right.
enacting reforms, addressing social issues, demonstrating their competence as leaders.
It's like a public audition for self-rule.
In a way, yes.
What was Gandhi's perspective on this?
Well, Gandhi, initially skeptical of accepting office,
Okay.
eventually came around to the idea of conditional acceptance.
Conditional acceptance.
He argued that Congress should form governments only if the British governors provided assurances of non-interference.
Okay, so dipping their toes in the water before taking the full plunge.
Exactly. A cautious approach.
Okay.
A way to test the waters.
Did this satisfy everyone?
Not at all.
Okay.
It generated strong reactions.
Yeah, I bet.
Some socialist leaders within the Congress saw it as a betrayal
Right.
of their core principles of non-cooperation.
Yeah.
They felt it was a slippery slope
Okay.
that could lead to the Congress becoming complicit in maintaining British rule.
So too much of a concession.
Yeah, for some.
A dangerous compromise.
It was a delicate balancing act for the leadership.
But it's interesting because some prominent Indian capitalists,
Yes.
like G.D. Birla, actually supported the decision.
They did.
Yeah.
They saw it as a way to bring stability
Okay.
and foster economic growth.
Interesting.
They believed a period of stable governance would benefit Indian businesses,
Right.
create a more favorable environment for investment.
So it wasn't just about ideological purity or revolutionary zeal.
No.
There were practical and economic considerations as well.
Right.
So the Congress takes the plunge.
They do.
They form governments in several provinces.
Mhm.
Do they get things done?
Well, this period of Congress rule in the provinces is
Yeah.
a fascinating chapter.
Wow.
It's a story of achievements and limitations,
Okay.
navigating the complexities of power within a system they aim to overthrow.
Right. Give us the highlights.
Okay, so One of the first things the Congress ministries did was to uphold their promise of safeguarding civil liberties.
Okay.
They lifted bans on newspapers that had been critical of the British government,
Okay.
released political prisoners,
Mm-hmm.
and restored pensions of officials who had been penalized for participating in the civil disobedience movement.
So right away,
Yes,
they're sending a message.
they are.
Things are different now.
Yeah, we're in charge.
Okay.
We're going to prioritize freedom and justice.
But did they manage to make any headway on the social and economic front?
They did.
Okay.
They introduced a number of reforms aimed at addressing the plight of the rural masses.
Okay, what kind of reforms?
Well, for instance, they enacted tenancy laws
Okay.
to protect farmers from exploitation by landlords.
Okay.
They tried to reduce the burden of rural debt.
Mm-hmm.
They initiated rural development schemes to improve agricultural practices
Okay.
and provide much-needed infrastructure in villages.
And what about the industrial workers?
They recognized trade unions,
Okay.
giving workers a collective voice to negotiate for better wages and working conditions.
Okay.
They also attempted to mediate industrial disputes.
So it seems like they're trying to create a more just and equitable society,
Yeah.
addressing those imbalances of power that had been entrenched for so long.
Absolutely. But governing is never easy.
Right, especially when you're trying to balance multiple priorities.
Exactly. And the Congress ministries soon found themselves grappling with various challenges and contradictions.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, one of the major challenges was internal conflict within the Congress itself.
Oh, so even though they were in power,
Yes.
those different factions,
Yeah.
those divisions,
Didn't magically disappear.
and I'm guessing this created tension
It did.
when it came to actually implementing policies.
One of the key areas of contention was land reform.
Okay.
The more radical elements
Mhm.
pushed for sweeping land reforms
Okay.
to redistribute land from wealthy landlords to landless peasants.
Okay.
But the more moderate faction was reluctant to go too far.
They were probably afraid of alienating the powerful landlord class.
Exactly, a key support base for the party.
So caught between their ideals and the practical realities of power.
Yes.
Were there any other internal challenges?
Labor issues.
Okay.
The socialist wing pushed for greater protections for workers,
Right.
stricter regulations on industries.
Okay.
But this wasn't always welcomed by those within Congress who were more sympathetic to the interests of industrialists.
It's that classic dilemma,
Yeah,
trying to balance the interests of labor and capital.
it's a challenge.
And beyond these internal struggles,
Yes.
they also had to deal with minority groups.
They did.
In princely states.
Remember, India is an incredibly diverse and complex society.
It is.
The Congress, despite its broad-based appeal, had to be mindful of the concerns and aspirations of different groups.
Right. It's not just about implementing policies.
No.
It's about managing relationships,
Exactly.
building consensus,
Yes,
addressing the needs of a diverse population.
absolutely.
Were there any specific instances where they faced challenges in dealing with minority groups?
The Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah,
Okay.
accused the Congress of being biased against Muslims,
Right.
of pursuing policies that favored Hindus.
So we're seeing those seeds of partition
Yeah,
starting to take root.
unfortunately.
How a global event like World War II could have such profound repercussions.
It's a reminder that global events often have unexpected and far-reaching consequences.
Okay.
The Congress resignations, while a powerful symbol of resistance,
Right.
also exposed the growing divide between the Congress and the Muslim League, a divide that would eventually lead to the creation of two separate nations.
India and Pakistan.
Yes.
It's inspiring to see the Congress standing up for their principles,
Mm-hmm.
but it's heartbreaking to see the seeds of division being sown.
It is.
This period is so complex.
It is full of contradictions and unintended consequences.
It's crucial to understand this period.
It is to fully grasp the forces that shaped modern India.
Okay, so we're back with part 3 of our deep dive into Congress rule in the provinces. And before the break, expert speaker, you were just telling us about how World War II really shook things up.
It did. It was a major turning point.
So set the scene for us. How did this global conflict impact India?
Well, as the war clouds gathered, Viceroy Linlithgow, he decided to declare India a belligerent nation joining the war on the side of the Allies.
Without consulting the Congress.
Or the Indian people.
I can only imagine how that went down.
The Congress was outraged.
Yeah,
They saw it as a blatant disregard for Indian autonomy,
right.
a stark reminder of their subservient status.
They were working towards self-rule, participating in the system, and then suddenly they're thrust into a war they didn't choose.
Exactly.
What was their response?
They launched a strong protest.
Okay.
They argued that India couldn't be a party to a war for democracy when it was itself denied basic democratic rights.
Okay.
They demanded a clear commitment from the British,
Yeah.
India's future, a promise of complete independence after the war.
So the war kind of became a catalyst for the independence movement.
In a way, yes.
It brought the question of self-determination to the forefront.
Absolutely.
What happened when the British didn't meet their demands?
The Congress resigned from the provincial governments.
Wow, a mass resignation.
Yes, it was a powerful act of defiance.
It seems like they're putting their principles above power.
They were.
What were the reactions to this?
Reactions were divided.
Okay.
Nationalists across the country rallied behind Congress, praising their courage.
So for many, it was a moment of unity and defiance.
It was.
But you said the reactions were divided.
Yes. The Muslim League, led by Jinnah, had a very different response.
Oh.
They celebrated the Congress resignations as a day of deliverance.
A day of deliverance.
They saw it as an opportunity to advance their own agenda of a separate Muslim state.
So this is where those seeds of partition we talked about earlier really start to take root.
Yes. It's a reminder that global events can have unexpected consequences
Right.
on local and regional dynamics.
The Congress resignations, while a symbol of resistance,
Yes.
also exposed this growing divide,
Between the Congress and the Muslim League.
which would eventually lead to the creation of India and Pakistan.
Exactly.
It's inspiring to see the Congress stand up for their principles, but it's also heartbreaking to see those seeds of division being sown.
It is a complex period.
It is. This has been an incredible journey
It has.
through such a pivotal chapter in India's fight for independence.
A lot happened in just a few short years.
We saw the Congress evolve from a movement focused on mass mobilization to a political force engaging with the system governing provinces and ultimately resigning in protest.
And for our UPSC aspirants out there,
Yes,
this period is full of valuable insights.
absolutely.
Analyze those strategies, the successes and failures, the impact of their policies, the key personalities involved.
It's a goldmine of information.
It is.
So delve deeper, explore those nuances, and connect the dots.
What if the war hadn't broken out?
Right.
What if the British had granted more autonomy earlier?
So many what ifs.
History is full of them.
It is. So to all our listeners, we leave you with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Did the Congress's decision to participate in elections and form governments ultimately strengthen or weaken the movement for complete independence?
It's a good question.
Let us know your thoughts on social media.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives.
Until next time, happy learning.